What did knights most often die from? How did someone actually become a knight? Did a true code of honor really exist? Were duels a fair way to settle conflicts? And what did a knight's passport look like? Today, we're going to uncover the surprising truth behind these 5 questions and break some of the biggest myths people still believe about medieval knights.
What did knights most often die from?
Most people imagine knights dying heroically in battle, sword against sword, defending kings, castles, or kingdoms. But the truth is far less glamorous. Knights were actually more likely to die during tournaments than on the battlefield. Despite being presented as festive competitions, tournaments were incredibly dangerous. Blunt weapons could still shatter bones, helm rims could crush skulls, and heavy falls from armored horses often caused fatal internal injuries. Many knights entered tournaments not for fun, but for money, fame, and political advantage, which made the events even more competitive and aggressive. Chroniclers described broken spines, punctured lungs, and riders trampled under armored hooves. So while movies show war as the great killer of knights, history shows that the most deadly enemy was the sport created to celebrate them.
How did someone actually become a knight?
Becoming a knight wasn't as simple as picking up a sword. The journey began in childhood. At around age 7, a boy from a noble family became a page, serving in a lord's household, learning manners, religion, and the basics of riding. In his early teens, he became a squire, not yet a warrior, but a personal attendant to a knight. He carried weapons, polished armor, took care of horses, and watched battles from behind the lines. Most of his life at this stage involved serving, not fighting. Only after years of training, often around age 18 to 21, could he be knighted. This usually required wealth, connections, recommendation, and sometimes payment. So the path to knighthood wasn't heroic. It was long, expensive, and filled with chores. Before knights commanded armies, they cleaned boots.
Did knights really follow a code of honor?
Stories tell us knights lived by chivalry, protecting the weak, respecting women, fighting fairly, and upholding justice. But the historical record tells another story. The chivalry code was mostly an ideal written by poets and churchmen, not a rule actually followed. On the battlefield, knights looted villages, burned crops, took prisoners for ransom, and terrorized civilians. Honor applied only when dealing with other nobles, not common people. A knight could slaughter peasants without guilt, but harming a noble hostage would be a scandal. So while chivalry makes great literature, it was more fiction than reality. Knights were professional warriors, and their behavior was shaped by power, money, and war, not idealism.
Were duels a fair way to settle conflicts? Surprisingly, yes. Duels were sometimes used as a legal method of deciding guilt, inheritance, and disputes. This was called trial by combat. The belief was simple: God will grant victory to the rightful side. But it wasn't fair. Strength, wealth, armor, and training mattered far more than justice. Some duels lasted hours. Others ended because one fighter simply collapsed from exhaustion in armor. Sometimes people hired champions to fight in their place, meaning the outcome had nothing to do with either participant at all. So while duels are portrayed as noble contests of honor, they were often political, unequal, and brutally practical.
What was a knight's passport? In medieval warfare, recognizing who was who on the battlefield was essential. That's where heraldry came in. Knights decorated their shields, banners, armor, and clothing with unique symbols, colors, and patterns. These designs acted like an identification system, a medieval passport. Heraldry told others which family a knight belonged to, which lord he served, his rank and alliances, and his battlefield reputation. It helped allies avoid killing each other, allowed enemies to target high-value opponents, and made it easier to claim honor or ransom. Far from decoration, heraldry was a language, one every knight needed to read. Conclusion. So as we've seen, the real world of knights was far different from legend. They died in tournaments, served before they fought, ignored the chivalry we imagine, settled disputes with brutal combat, and carried their identity not in papers, but on shields and armor. If you want more forgotten truths about the Middle Ages, let me know. There are many more myths to uncover.